Welcome to Knife Thoughts. This video is going to be my review of this knife, and this is the Civivi Incindie. So this is a new model from Civivi, and it's one that I was interested in checking out for a couple reasons. So first of all, I want to thank Civivi for sending this knife for me to check out. I always appreciate getting to see their knives. As I always say, they are super consistent, and that is the truth with this knife, but I'll talk about that more a little later in the video. So why was I interested in this particular knife, the Incindie? Well, first of all, this is a configuration, this Damascus steel and Ivory G10 handle, that I have wanted to check out from Civivi and just really haven't gotten a chance to yet. So I was excited to see that it was coming in that. Another thing is the size of this knife. It is a relatively large knife. It has a 3.48 inch blade, which sits squarely within the size that I like to carry for my modern knives. I said for a while that Civivi tends to make smaller knives, and they do definitely make smaller knives also, but I can't really say that they do that exclusively or primarily anymore because they've been making some nice larger knives like this. It's a nice size because you get a pretty full length blade, but if you have a 3.5 inch blade length law, you're underneath that. And then finally, the design itself drew me in. So let's talk about the design here. So this has a really cool spear point blade that's almost kind of like a bayonet. You can't see it quite as easily on this Damascus version because you kind of just are drawn to the Damascus pattern itself, but this has a really cool, really long, almost the full length. This starts right here, swedge. And so I love swedges. They're something that you see on traditional knives a lot, and I love traditional knives. It's kind of what brings me into the knife world mostly, although I started with modern knives. And I love to see a nice swedge on a modern knife. I think it's very classic and traditional looking. And so this is a really cool swedge. It's a very long swedge here. So you get a little bit of flat and then this nice long swedge that is kind of bisected, separated by this, what you might call a fuller. So it's a milled section of the blade here. It actually starts larger and gets smaller here towards the tip, and then extends from there with this grind line. So you get that almost bayonet style look to it, but a classic spear point shaped edge. So you have kind of a continuously curved edge here that gives you a really usable blade shape where, you can do piercing, tasks, you can do push cuts, you can certainly do pull cuts and roll cuts. So just a very classic, useful blade shape that I think works well, but also looks really good. And that's even without the Damascus steel, which I'll talk about a little later on. Then, in addition to the classically shaped blade, you have a really classic handle. So you've got the palm swell here, you've got the kind of upturn at the butt, the nice kind of curve, gentle curve to the back of the handle. And so it just looks like a very classic knife handle. And then you have this kind of matching fuller here in the handle and the 3 dots or 3 holes through the handle. So it just looks like a very classic handle and blade shape to me. Very knifey looking knife. Almost reminds me of kind of medieval type European daggers and things like that. And I definitely can appreciate that. So I really like the look of the design of this knife, even without the Damascus steel. But like I say, this combination of the Damascus steel and the Ivory G10 handle also drew me in. So Civivi's Damascus is something that they have a couple different versions of. And this version is really cool. It looks, you've got these points, almost looks like Jaggers or Briars, and really kind of cool topographical look to it. But then you have your actual core steel there also. And to be completely honest, I'm not 100% sure what that core steel is, but I did take this knife to the pool with me today with my son, and it got wet and everything, and no issues with rust. So it certainly is not, just a plain carbon Damascus steel. It definitely has some corrosion resistance properties to it, and it has held an edge well. I've used this knife for just normal EDC tasks, and it seems to hold an edge well. The truth is, for me, I don't use my knives in a way that makes a huge difference between most blade steels for their edge wear, their wear resistance. So it works great, but it looks great also, and I appreciate that. Damascus is something that there's kind of some negative connotations for, with like Pakistani knives and things like that, but it is something that I think is just cool. It's cool to have a Damascus steel knife. It looks fancy, and I think it elevates the knife above its actual price range. So I do really like the look of that Damascus also. And then this Ivory G10 is also really unique. It is kind of like a very light cream color that, again, I think gives it an elevated look beyond the price range. So, it gives it kind of like a faux ivory type look. Of course, it has a different texture than ivory would, but it gives it kind of a, just a classier look that fits well with the Damascus blade. So I do really like that also. And then finally, like I said, it is a large blade. I like the size of this knife. I think that you get a very usable amount of edge. You could probably carry this knife as your only knife, and even if you wanted kind of a tactical knife. I don't really carry knives for that reason, but this definitely has a design that would lend itself to that. But with this version, with the Damascus and Ivory G10, you get, the classy look to it also. That said, there are other versions. There's a version with black G10 and a plain handle, and then there are a couple versions in green. So I really like the look of this knife. I think that it's a nice classic design. It has worked well for me, and honestly, like I said at the beginning, the thing is that Civivi just has these dialed in. I mean, I have gotten to check out a lot of Civivi knives, and they, I don't know if they choose the knife to send to me. I kind of doubt it because they come sealed and everything, but there's like never a dud. They are super consistent. They have these button locks just dialed in. I am sure that there are companies making much more expensive knives that somehow have better done button locks. I mean, I'm not sure, actually, to be completely honest, but I would guess that there are people who believe that. I think that these button locks are right the way that I would want them. I don't know how you would improve it. They are drop close smooth. They have a good amount of tension on the detent, enough that you can flick it out really easily, and just super, super smooth. And they are solid too. I mean, it has ball bearings, but even unlocked here, no blade play, super, super solid. When you lock it, no forward and back blade play, no side to side still, of course, and no lock stick. Some button locks, from some companies have lock stick. They really have these button locks dialed in. I think that they do a great job of it. It's came pretty much perfectly centered, maybe ever so slightly off to the non-clip side, but I mean, pretty close to perfect. They always come with good edges, which isn't always the case for some American-made knife companies. Just super well made, and I think hard to beat value-wise, like the quality that you get for the price. So this one, being the Damascus version, is more expensive. The MSRP is $110. The kind of retail price is more like $94, something like that. And speaking of which, Civivi has set up a discount code for me through them. So it's Knife Thoughts. So make sure if you buy a knife from Civivi, you use my links and my discount code, which is in the description. But again, another really, really nicely made knife from Civivi that I've enjoyed getting to check out, especially with its classic design and these elevated materials. So this is the Civivi Incindie. If you've enjoyed this video, make sure you subscribe to the channel, click the bell, and select all so you know when I post new videos. Always, have Civivi videos coming up because I really enjoy checking out their knives. Also, go to my website, knifethoughts.com, where I post articles on knives like this and knife-related topics, and subscribe to the newsletter. That's the best way to get all of the latest knife thoughts. And last but not least, as always, don't forget to go out and do good.